I never thought my life would unravel like this. I'm Sophia, trapped in a marriage that feels like a hollow shell, where silence suffocates every corner of our beige, lifeless home on the edge of Chicago. Each day, I ache to be seen, to feel something beyond the mundane routine that swallowed me whole, until a forbidden spark ignites with someone I never expected. Now, my heart races with secrets, torn between guilt and a longing I can't suppress, as stolen glances and hidden messages pull me deeper into a dangerous web. What have I done? And how far will this go before everything I've built comes crashing down? Picture this: a quiet suburban street, the kind where every house looks like it's holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I'm Sophia, 29 years old, and I've been married to William for 6 years now. Our home, just on the edge of Chicago, is a study in muted tones, beige walls that seem to soak up any hint of vibrancy, furniture arranged with a precision that feels more like a showroom than a lived-in space. The silence here is a heavy thing, a constant companion that settles between us like dust on forgotten shelves. I move through these rooms like a shadow, unnoticed, unseen, even by the man I promised to share my life with. William, my husband, is a financial analyst, always buried in spreadsheets and late-night emails. He comes home long after the sun has set, his tie loosened, his eyes already somewhere else before he even steps through the door. I've lost count of the nights I've spent crafting elaborate dinners, roasted lamb with rosemary, creamy risotto with truffles, only to watch him eat in silence, his phone screen casting a cold glow on his face as he scrolls through endless notifications. Our conversations, if you can call them that, are reduced to the bare bones of necessity. Did you pay the electric bill? Can you grab milk on your way home? Each word feels like a pebble dropped into a still pond, barely rippling before it sinks. I ache for something more, for a connection that goes beyond the checklist of a shared life. I want to be seen, not just as a wife who keeps the house running, but as Sophia, the woman I used to be before routine swallowed me whole. Then there's Jacob, William's best friend since their college days. At 32, Jacob is a freelance photographer, the kind of man who carries a certain rugged allure without even trying. His dark hair is always a little tousled, as if he's just come in from a windy day, and his smile, warm, genuine, has a way of lighting up a room. But it's his eyes that get me, a quiet intensity in them, like he's always seeing more than he lets on. He's been a fixture in our lives for years, showing up for backyard barbecues, late-night game sessions, or just to hang out on our couch with a beer in hand. His easy humor cuts through the tension in our home like a breeze, and I've always appreciated how he seems to fill the spaces William leaves empty. But something shifted recently, and I can't shake the memory of it. It was a dinner party at our house, nothing out of the ordinary at first. Just friends gathered around our dining table, the clink of glasses and murmur of conversation filling the air. I decided to wear something different that night, an emerald dress I hadn't touched in years. The fabric clung to me in a way that felt almost daring, hugging every curve, shimmering under the soft glow of the dining room lights. For the first time in what felt like forever, I can still feel the warmth of that dinner party lingering in my mind, the way the air seemed to hum with something unspoken. After that night, things with Jacob started to change in ways I couldn't ignore. It began with little things, small ripples in the stillness of my days. My phone would buzz on the kitchen counter, and I'd see his name pop up, a tiny spark in the monotony. At first, it was just playful texts, silly memes about the quirks of married life, a cartoon of a couple arguing over who forgot to take out the trash, or a quick quip about surviving another week. Then came the casual check-ins, a simple, "How's your day going?" that somehow felt like a lifeline in the quiet of my afternoons. I'd find myself waiting for those messages, my heart doing a little flip each time my phone lit up with his name. One evening, as I was folding laundry in the dim glow of the bedroom lamp, a new text came through. It was a photo, a breathtaking sunset, all fiery oranges and deep purples, captured during one of his photography shoots out by Lake Michigan. The message read, "Ever thought of tagging along on one of these trips? Bet you'd love the view." I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, a rush of excitement mixing with a pang of guilt. I typed back something neutral, a quick, "Looks amazing." But inside, I was already imagining it. Standing beside him, the cool breeze off the lake, the world feeling alive in a way it hadn't in years. Those texts became my secret thrill, a hidden corner of my day that I didn't share with William. He was always too busy anyway, either working late or slumped on the couch, lost in whatever was flickering across the TV screen. He never noticed how often I'd smile at my phone, or how I'd angle it away from him just in case. Then there was that Saturday afternoon, a day that's etched into my memory with startling clarity. William was out, probably at the office again, and I was in the kitchen, wrestling with a stubborn jar of marinara sauce for a pasta dish I'd planned. My hands were slick with frustration, the glass slipping under my grip, and I was muttering under my breath when the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, still annoyed, and opened the door to find Jacob standing there, a camera lens in his hand. He said he'd borrowed it from William and wanted to drop it off. His voice was casual, but his presence filled the doorway, and I felt a sudden awareness of how alone we were. I invited him in, more out of politeness than anything, and went back to my battle with the jar. He followed me into the kitchen, leaning against the counter with that easy posture of his, watching as I struggled. "Need a hand?" he asked, a hint of amusement in his tone. I laughed, a little embarrassed, and nodded. He stepped closer, too close really, and I remember that rainy evening as if it were carved into my soul. It was our 6th wedding anniversary, and I'd poured every ounce of hope I had left into making it special. The kitchen smelled of roasted chicken, seasoned just the way William used to love it, with hints of garlic and thyme lingering in the air. I'd set the dining table with care, crisp white napkins, flickering candlelight casting soft shadows on the walls, and a bottle of our favorite red wine waiting to be uncorked. I'd even slipped into a dress I hadn't worn in ages, a deep burgundy number that made me feel a little like the woman I used to be. I wanted to rekindle something, anything, to bridge the chasm that had grown between us. But as the clock ticked past 7, then 8, a hollow ache settled in my chest. William wasn't coming. At 9, my phone buzzed with a text, short, impersonal, like a memo from a colleague. "Stuck at the office. Forgot the date. Sorry." Forgot the date. Those words sliced through me sharper than any knife. I sat there alone at the table, the candles burning low, wax pooling on the cloth, tears streaming down my face. I felt invisible, a ghost in my own home, my efforts dissolving into the silence. I'd been texting with Jacob earlier that day, just small things, him checking in as he often did. But when I didn't reply to his last message, he must have sensed something was off. I was still sitting there, lost in my misery, when the doorbell rang, a sharp sound cutting through the patter of rain outside. I dragged myself to the door, not caring who saw me like this, mascara smudged, eyes red. There stood Jacob, soaked to the bone, his dark hair plastered to his forehead, raindrops clinging to his jacket. His eyes, though, those eyes that always seemed to see right through me, were full of concern. "Sophia, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice low, urgent. I tried to speak, but my throat closed up, and all I could do was step aside to let him in. The words tumbled out then, shaky and raw, about William forgetting our anniversary, about how I'd been waiting for hours. Jacob didn't say much at first. He just pulled me into a hug, his damp jacket cold against my skin. But the warmth of him, the solidness, seeped into me. I could smell the rain on him, mixed with something earthy, uniquely his. We stood there for what felt like forever, and when I finally pulled back, our eyes locked. The air between us was heavy, charged with everything we'd never said. I felt a tear slip down my cheek, and before I could wipe it away, his thumb was there, brushing it off with a tenderness that stole my breath. I don't know who moved first. Maybe it was me, maybe it was him, but suddenly, our lips met. It was desperate, hungry, tasting of rain and regret. A collision of everything I'd been holding back for so long. My hands found his shoulders, gripping the wet fabric of his jacket, while his fingers tangled in my hair, pulling me closer. It was wrong. I knew it was wrong. But in that moment, I didn't care. I needed to feel something, to be seen. And he was giving me that in a way I hadn't felt in years. We barely spoke after that. It was like we were caught in some unspoken current, pulling us along. We stumbled out into the rain, my heart pounding so loud I thought it might drown out the storm. We made it to his car, the windows fogging up almost instantly as we drove to his apartment, the silence between us thick with anticipation. I remember the blur of streetlights through the rain-streaked glass, my hand resting on my knee, trembling, while his grip on the steering wheel was tight, almost too tight. When we got to his place, the door had barely closed behind us before we were on each other again, a tangle of need and longing. His hands explored me with a gentleness I'd forgotten could exist. Tracing the weeks after that rainy night with Jacob felt like walking on a tightrope, every step a gamble between exhilaration and dread. I tried to keep up appearances, to be the same Sophia who smiled at William over breakfast, who asked about his day, as if my heart wasn't racing with secrets. But the air in our home had changed, thickened with an unspoken tension that I couldn't shake. Jacob and I did our best to act normal around William, but it was like trying to hide a storm behind a thin curtain. At social gatherings, backyard cookouts, or casual drinks with friends, I'd catch Jacob's eye across the room, just for a split second, and it was enough to send a jolt through me. Those stolen glances were a silent language, a reminder of what we'd done, what we couldn't stop doing. My skin would prickle with the memory of his touch, and I'd have to look away, force a laugh at something someone said, anything to mask the heat rising in my chest. Late at night, when William was asleep or lost in his work, my phone would light up with Jacob's name. Those secret texts were a lifeline and a curse, each message pulling me deeper into a web I couldn't untangle. "Thinking about you," he'd write, or "Can't wait to see you again." I'd stare at the words, my thumb hovering over the screen, torn between deleting them and typing back something I knew I shouldn't. But I always did. I'd reply with something vague, something safe, yet my heart would pound as if I'd just confessed everything. And then there were the moments we stole away, brief escapes where the world narrowed to just the two of us. A quick meeting at a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town, where we'd sit in a corner booth, our knees brushing under the table, our voices low as if someone might overhear. Or that time in his car, parked in a deserted lot after dark, where we let ourselves get lost in each other again. The windows fogging up as the boundaries between right and wrong blurred into a haze of longing. Each encounter was a rush, a wildfire that left me breathless, but it also carved a deeper hollow in my chest, a shame that grew heavier with every touch. I'm torn apart by it all. Jacob makes me feel alive in a way I'd forgotten was possible. When I'm with him, I'm not just William's wife or the woman who keeps the house in order. I'm Sophia, desired, seen, cherished in a way that sets my soul on fire. But then I'd come home, see William sitting there, maybe reading a report or just staring out the window, and the weight of our shared life would crash over me. 6 years of memories, our first apartment with its leaky faucet, the road trips where we'd sing off-key to old songs, the quiet nights on the couch with a bowl of popcorn between us. They all flicker in my mind like a fading film reel. I'm losing that life, bit by bit, and every time I look into William's eyes, I see the cracks widening. I wonder if he sees them too. The guilt is a constant ache, a shadow that follows me through every room of this house, whispering that I've betrayed everything I once held dear. Paranoia started creeping in, little moments that made my stomach twist with fear. One evening, as I was clearing the dinner table, William looked up from his laptop and asked, "Why have you been so distracted lately?" His tone was casual, almost offhand, but his eyes, those steady, searching eyes, pinned me in place. I fumbled with the plates, nearly dropping one, and forced a smile, mumbling something about being tired, about work stress I didn't even have. But my voice sounded thin, hollow, and I could feel the heat creeping up my neck. He just nodded, returning to his screen, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching me closer than before. Another time, I was in the kitchen, texting Jacob about meeting up, when I heard William's footsteps behind me. I shoved the phone into my pocket so fast I nearly dropped it, my heart hammering as I turned. I'm sitting across from William at our dining table, the same one where I've spent countless nights hoping for a spark, a connection. Tonight, though, the air feels different, thicker, heavier, like the moment before a storm breaks. He's not looking at his laptop for once. His eyes are on me, steady and unreadable, and I feel my pulse quicken under that gaze. My hands are in my lap, fidgeting with the edge of a napkin, when he finally speaks, his voice low, almost too calm. "Sophia, I've known for months." My breath catches in my throat, sharp and sudden, like I've been slapped. My hands start to tremble, the napkin crumpling under my fingers, and I open my mouth to say something, anything. But all that comes out is a stammered mess of apologies. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I brace myself, expecting anger, expecting him to lash out, to let all the hurt I've caused spill over. But he doesn't. He just sits there, his expression softening in a way that cuts deeper than any shout could. Instead, William leans forward, his hands clasped on the table, and his voice cracks with a raw honesty I haven't heard from him in years. "I've felt you drifting away, Sophia, for a long time now, and I blame myself for not fighting harder to keep us close. I saw it happening, saw the distance growing, and I did nothing." His words hit me like a wave, each one heavier than the last. He keeps going, his gaze never wavering. "I noticed how Jacob looked at you, the way his eyes lingered when he thought I wasn't watching. I saw the late-night texts, the ones you thought you'd hidden so well. I didn't say anything because I was terrified of losing you completely." My stomach twists, a sick mix of shame and shock washing over me. He knew. All this time, he knew, and I had no idea. I feel exposed, like every secret I've carried has been laid bare on this table between us. I'm still reeling, my mind racing to process his confession, when he drops something I never saw coming. His voice shifts, almost clinical, detached, as if he's presenting a business proposal. "I've been thinking about this for a while, and I don't want to end our marriage. I don't want to force you to choose. What if we tried something different? What if we explored a shared arrangement with Jacob?" My jaw drops, my mind grinding to a halt. I stare at him, searching his face for some sign that he's joking, that this is some twisted way of testing me. But there's nothing but sincerity in his eyes, a desperate determination to find a way to keep me. A whirlwind of emotions crashes through me. Confusion so thick I can barely think. Disbelief that he'd even suggest this, and buried beneath it all, a strange flicker of curiosity I don't want to acknowledge. What is he asking of me? Of us? My heart pounds so loud I'm sure he can hear it, and I don't know whether to cry, scream, or just walk away. That very night, as if to prove he meant every word, William invites Jacob over. I'm a bundle of nerves as I hear the doorbell, my hands shaking as I smooth down my shirt for the 10th time. When Jacob steps inside, his familiar frame filling the doorway, the tension in the room becomes a living thing, pressing against my skin. We sit in the living room, the three of us, glasses of whiskey in hand to steady the awkwardness. The amber liquid burns down my throat, but it does little to ease the weight of the silence. William takes the lead, explaining his idea with that same measured tone, while Jacob's eyes dart between us, wide with surprise but not entirely resistant. I can barely look at either of them, my fingers gripping the glass so tight I'm afraid it might shatter. The conversation stumbles along, halting and strange, until somehow, impossibly, we agree to step into this uncharted territory together. What follows is a blur, a collision of emotions. The weeks following that night in our living room, where the three of us ventured into an arrangement I never thought possible, felt like stepping into a dream that quickly turned into a fog. At first, there was a strange kind of thrill, an electric current running through me as we navigated this new dynamic. It was uncharted, raw, And for a fleeting moment, I thought maybe we could rewrite the rules of what love and connection meant. But reality has a way of creeping in, doesn't it? That initial rush, the pulse-pounding excitement of something so forbidden, began to fade under the weight of what we were actually doing. What started as a desperate attempt to hold on to something, anything, soon revealed itself as a fragile illusion, one that couldn't withstand the light of day. I noticed the change in William first. Our conversations, already sparse before, became even more strained, like we were reading from a script neither of us believed in. We'd sit at the breakfast table, the clink of coffee mugs against the wood the only sound breaking the silence, and I'd catch him staring off into the distance, his jaw tight, his eyes clouded with something I couldn't reach. He'd try to smile, to ask about my day, but the words felt hollow, forced, like he was playing a role he no longer understood. I wanted to reach out, to bridge that gap, but every time I opened my mouth, the weight of our choices pressed down on me, silencing any chance of real connection. We were two people in the same house, but further apart than we'd ever been. And then there was Jacob. Those shared moments, once so charged with longing and unspoken promises, started to feel different too. What had been a deep, soul-stirring pull between us shifted into something more transactional, I guess you could say. When we were together, it was less about the emotional bond I'd craved and more about a physical need, a fleeting escape from the mess we'd made. I'd look into his eyes, searching for that warmth I used to see, but instead, I'd find a longing I couldn't fully return. It was like we were both chasing a feeling that had slipped through our fingers, leaving only echoes behind. I'd leave those encounters feeling emptier than before, my heart aching with the realization that this wasn't the answer I'd hoped for. The guilt, though, that was the worst of it. It became a living thing, gnawing at me every waking moment. Every time I saw William trying to pretend everything was okay, putting on a brave face as he went through the motions of our daily life, it cut me to the core. I'd watch him fold laundry or fix a leaky faucet, small acts of care that used to mean so much, and I'd feel like a fraud, an intruder in my own marriage. And with Jacob, it wasn't any easier. When he'd look at me with those intense eyes, hoping for something more than I could give, the shame would wash over me in waves. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every decision that led us here, wondering how I'd let myself fall so far from the woman I used to be. It all came to a head on a quiet evening, one of those nights where the air feels heavy with unspoken truths. William and I were in the living room, the TV flickering with some show neither of us was really watching. The silence between us was suffocating, and I knew we couldn't keep pretending. I turned to him, my voice barely above a whisper, and said, "We can't do this anymore, can we?" He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the pain he'd been carrying for so long. He shook his head slowly, and in that moment, we both knew. Our marriage, the life we'd built over 6 years, couldn't survive this. We'd tried to patch the cracks with something so unconventional, but all we'd done was shatter what was left. The conversation that followed was raw, painful, but strangely honest. We sat there for hours, unraveling everything. Our hopes, our failures, the love we'd once had that. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.